Hi, you guys. Welcome back. It is Elizabeth from Elizabeth's Oracle, and I am here with your Sun through Aries report for 2016. And I am just going to wash right through this because if I try to be too organized with this big Pisces stellium that we're under, it'll just never work. And we are going to have the personal planets, so the Sun, Mercury, and Venus, some of the personal planets, anyways, moving, shaking off all that watery energy and moving into the cardinal fire sign of Aries. We are also going to have a square between Saturn, which loves restriction, and Jupiter, which loves expansion. So that should be a blast. And what else do we have during this cycle? Oh, the bad boys of astrology all turning retrograde. So this would be Saturn, Mars, and Pluto all turning around. The Mars retrograde we'll talk about because Mars is the ruler of Aries. So here are the star times for each section. And because it's Aries, man, let's just keep going. Hope you enjoy. A lot of you know astrology well, so I won't go into too many of the details. But for those of you who are new, Aries is a fire cardinal sign. And what we mean by that is all of the signs are one of four elements. The fire signs are Aries, Sagittarius, and Leo. And Aries is a cardinal sign. So cardinal signs start their respective seasons. There are three modalities: cardinal, fixed, and mutable in astrology. This is cardinal, meaning it's an invigorating, enlivening, initiative taking kind of energy that we deal with. We get things started. So you put the two together and wow, we have some energy moving, which I think a lot of people will be happy to see after such a heartbreaking Pisces cycle. If you didn't get in touch with your emotions last month, you're just not human. I don't know where you're from, but welcome. But yeah, that was really, that big stellium was so emotional. And we're definitely going to have a lot of that influence here. And in fact, all the way through next May. So I don't want to say, oh, we're not going to be feeling any of that. It's a great place to draw from for our creativity, for healing things, for our compassion. So it's all good. But I think a lot of us are ready to have a little fire back, and we definitely have a lot of fire coming up in the sky. So let's look here at this chart. When the sun comes into Aries, that's on the 19th. Then 2 days later, it's joined by Mercury. And then on the 5th, Venus comes into the fire sign of Aries. Look at where Mercury is in that chart, and you can see Mercury's at the very end of the Aries cycle, meaning it's going to go into Taurus, and in fact that happens that day. So notice the 5th, because there's kind of a little planetary changing of the guard like there was in March on the 5th. So very interesting. Last time it was Mars and Mercury changing places, and this time it's Venus and Mercury. Anyway, all the planets moving through Aries are gonna connect with Uranus. Here are the dates for that. That's important. Those are conjunctions, meaning they connect to the exact same spot. So this is a harmonious energy. They definitely amplify. Think about two of the same thing. It just, makes more of it. And then we factor in what the planets involved mean. So in this case, we have the sun and then Mercury and finally Venus all connecting with erratic, unpredictable Uranus. Now, the energy that this is good for is when you feel stuck, if you got any stuckness going on. And I love this because the human tendency, when we get stuck and we say, I want change, I'm ready for things to change. And then the universe says, here. And what do? We dig in our heels. No, 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 no. I don't want to do that. I mean, I meant change, but not, no, no, no. And we just, hold on. And it's kind of funny, but I think with these Uranus changes and conjunctions, I should say, where you are ready to let go and let God and open it up into something bigger. Remember, that is the whole point of Aries, is to start something new. Not only is it cardinal, it's fire. It's just, really getting you going and telling you to try new things. But that's, Uranus loves that kind of energy. So these are all really working for you if you can have the courage, which is an Aries thing, to jump right in and give some new things a try. The other element, there's kind of a few things that these three moving through Aries will do. So one is the connection with Uranus. The second one, though, is square to Pluto. Yeah, we're not totally done with those. Remember those 2012 to 2015 between Uranus and Pluto? Well, this time it's going to be the Sun, Mercury, and then Venus all squaring with Pluto. So stuff will come up. You know, it's again, it's squaring, it's where stuff, just one thing squares against another, and we have to figure out what do we release, where's, what are we going to do with that energy, what needs to shift there. So those things are going to come up. And then the other aspect when we have this fire thing is we've got Mars now and Saturn in the fellow fire sign of Sagittarius. So the Sun, then Mercury, then Venus are all going to be making connections first with Mars, because Mars is in the early stage of Sagittarius. So they'll make trines to Mars first, and then they're going to make trines to Saturn. Now, these are very different trines in the sense that, again, we have all this initiating, get up and go area energy with Aries. That's a wonderful match for Mars and Sagittarius. I mean, Sagittarius loves everything, is, all about getting on board, and Mars is our energy. So the thing is, we have Saturn right there in Sagittarius too. As a lot of you know, that's not the easiest match, because Sagittarius is very hopeful and wishful, can see the horizon, and Saturn is all about the limitations, the restriction, the form, the structure. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but so all those enlivening energies they're going to trine, which is definitely one of our more favorable aspects. So maybe Saturn can help show us how to put all those big ideas again into form. And speaking of that, I want to move to the second part, which is the discussion of this Saturn square to Jupiter in Virgo. So we're going to switch it up a bit and let's move on to that. Wow, so this is a really big one because it's also happening at the time of the eclipse on the 23rd of March. We have our second eclipse. This one is a bookend to the one on March 8th, but it's going to feel very different. That one had that huge Pisces stellium, and this one is cardinal. So we are going to have the sun in Aries opposite the moon in Libra, all being squared, of course, by Pluto in Capricorn. And on the same day, we get a Saturn square to Jupiter. So what does that mean? Again, Saturn is structure, restrictions. Interestingly enough, it's in the sign that Jupiter rules, Sagittarius. And for Jupiter's part, it's in Virgo, which is not its favorite place to be either. And it's retrograde. So we've got Jupiter, which loves normally to expand and to give gifts, benevolent, keep us in touch with a higher consciousness or awareness of things, seeing the bigger picture and having a gigantic vision for things. It's in Virgo, which is very much just the facts, ma'am. The details, the figures. So that's not an easy placement for a planet that loves, well, I keep saying expand, but again, that's the word we would associate most with Jupiter. And Saturn, of course, is contraction, and these guys are in a square. So that again is one of the more challenging aspects in astrology. So these guys are having their own fight in the middle of all that cardinal energy. And again, I feel like so much the theme with the mutable squares, and I talked about this last year, I think in the Sun through Gemini video, we're going to have a lot of mutable squaring. And in fact, on the 25th, Venus will still be in Pisces, and it's going to oppose Jupiter. So again, when we're talking about mutable energies, things come up and we look at what do we need to release, what do we let dissolve. But when it comes to this little fight between Jupiter and Saturn, it's to me, it's about let's be realistic about things. So again, this is when we get on the scale, and no matter how many affirmations we've done about being thin or whatever it is, the numbers are the numbers. Or we look at our bank account and we see X amount in the ledger. It's not necessarily a bad thing, or our credit score is X. So we need to take that on board, and then we can still have that big dream, the big, plans that Jupiter and Sagittarius normally like to encourage us with all this Aries initiative and all of that. But we do need to kind of get a baseline. And I feel like that's what that square is about. It's sort of saying, no matter what your goal is for this year, and again, spring can enliven that and give you a lot of energy to push you forward, we are going to check in with the facts and figures. So another little, note from the universe, so to speak. Okay. Okay, and before I get on to the last part with the retrogrades that are coming up, I do want to mention again the 5th of April, big day, changing of the guards kind of energy. So Mercury will be shifting into Taurus. And what's important about that, one, that helps ground. If we've got all these planets, look at where they are in the sky. So we have all these emotions, all this healing, all this 12th house Pisces stuff, bringing up old things for healing, whether it's addictions, unresolved issues. Remember, the South Node is right in the middle of it. So we're not getting away from this anytime soon, because the South Node, Neptune, and Chiron are staying in Pisces. Here's a chart for the end of the year. See? They're all still there. And so you can run, but you can't hide. Like, your emotions are there. You're going to be feeling them. And so what we do with that is, with this Aries energy, we can try on new things, new ways of dealing with them, or new strategies, new ways of being and doing things. And Aries is doing, so that's another, if that's helpful to you. And then Taurus helps bring things into form, and it's also my favorite energy for grounding. So I like that even in this cycle of a lot of shifting, we're going to start to at least get in touch on a thought level with Taurus, and that's through Mercury. And the reason I'm also bringing it up is that on the 14th of April, late in the Aries cycle, it will cross the shadow of its next retrograde. So again, we start to go, oh yeah, remember all 4 Mercury retrogrades this year are in the Earth sign. So this is our material world, which of course is, kind of has some resonance both with Saturn, because it's the structure and the form, and it also has resonance with Jupiter over there in Virgo, because Virgo is one of the Earth signs. So those things are happening now. The other 2 that are going retrograde, and Saturn goes retrograde at this time of year very normally, as does Pluto. The unusual thing for 2016 is that Mars is going to start its retrograde on the 17th of April. Again, this is very late in the Aries cycle, but a very significant retrograde. So here are the dates around that. And again, I would say get as much done from the beginning of this cycle till about, we start to hit the 14th of April, put as many new things out there as possible. And then you'll start to see, what comes back and what's going to work. And again, I think there still may be some restrictions in terms of resources or not being able to fully implement what you want to do. But the fact is, just keep moving forward with what you have, and it will sort itself out, because it's still very early in the year, and so there's plenty of time to do what you want to do. But a Mars retrograde in Sag, again, Sag is the hopeful sign, and it just wants to encourage us. And Mars loves action, but the slowing down. So again, I think we're in it. That all gets squared. Again, we go into the mutable squaring energy. So we've got careful Virgo over there, 90 degrees away. So again, I think we're just being asked to be very careful with things and not get overly exuberant. So it's just part of the whole 2016 thing. It's been a wonky year so far. But I feel like the cycle, this Aries cycle, will at least begin to enliven us. And I think, we will feel a little bit better, and then we can be, more will move on into Taurus, feeling a little more grounded. But I would just say stick with your, the plans that are working out. Don't be afraid to change what's not, because there's such a strong mutable influence. But keep working through it, and the next month should see some of that stuff start to flower, like literally when you've planted the various seeds and the first time that you look at the flower box and a little green leaf has popped up. So you should be seeing some of those, and that's what's going on as the sun is going through Aries. And for the closing announcements that I like to do at the end of the videos, one, I'll be joining my friend Kristy Ayala. We did her show on the 16th of March, actually, for this Aries cycle. And so you can listen for free anytime via the archive. You can also come to my site, Elizabeth's Oracle, sign up for the email list. I put specials in there that aren't necessarily anywhere else. And if you'd like to have a reading, be it astrology or just a general intuitive reading, I do give 5 free minutes with your first order if you are a new customer. So that's my little YouTube special. So I just thank you for watching, and I wish you I just hope like the cycle brings a lot more of the life and enthusiasm for things, because the Pisces cycle is definitely very emotional, and if we can work with those emotions and use them to heal things, I think that's the best we're going to be able to do with them, given the longer transits of Neptune, the South Node, and Chiron later at the end of the year, Pallas Athene. So a lot of Pisces will be with us, and let's just try to use it for the holistic healing planetary energy, zodiac energy that it is. Okay, I'll talk with you next month, and thank you for watching.